All right, so welcome back. Again, this is section 2 of this class where we're talking about how to remember stuff. And in this video, I want to talk about the idea of rereading our notes. Now, there have been loads of studies that basically show, spoiler alert, that rereading is probably a waste of time. So for example, that 2013 paper from Professor Dunlosky and his colleagues concluded that reading is low utility. And he says, and I quote, "When compared with some other learning techniques, rereading is typically much less effective. The relative disadvantage of rereading to other techniques is the largest strike against rereading and is the factor that weighed most heavily in our decision to assign it a rating of low utility." So that's a pretentious fancy way of saying that, yeah, rereading does work, but there are so many better things we could be doing instead, like active recall and spaced repetition and stuff, and interleaving and categorizing and things that we'll talk about more later. Rereading does work. It obviously does work. So I got through some of my GCSE exams through just reading the notes, and I've got friends who've gotten through their medical school exams just by reading the notes. But I would argue that our success in these has been despite our study techniques rather than because of it. Like, it's not because rereading is effective that we did well in these exams. It's because, either we were just naturally intelligent or the subject was easy or whatever. But moral of the story, we probably shouldn't be rereading. There was another paper from 2016 where I'm quoting from, and it says, "A wealth of research has shown that passive, repetitive reading produces little or no benefit for learning. Yet not only was repetitive reading the most frequently listed strategy, i.e. they're talking about it was most frequently listed among strategies that students were using when they were surveyed, it was also the strategy most often listed as students' number one choice." So the context of this study is that they surveyed loads of students, asking them, which study techniques do you use firstly, and what is the most popular one that you use all the time? And there was loads of people who said that they reread their notes, and that was the number one choice by a long way. And I've got this evidence in my video about active recall if you want to look at the actual study in depth. But basically, we all love reading our notes, but rereading our notes is not very effective. So firstly, why do we enjoy reading our notes? Well, I think we enjoy reading our notes because A, it's easy, and B, it feels productive. Like when we're reading, and especially when we're highlighting stuff or even summarizing as we're going along, we feel like we're being productive. We're highlighting pretty colors and we're like, oh, I read 8 pages today, as if that's gonna make a difference to anyone's life. And we also like rereading because we really don't have to think too hard about it. Like, you could be really tired at the end of the day and you can be like, you know what, I'm gonna read a chapter from physiology, and you could get your book out and you can read the chapter in physiology and you can think, cool, I've done a good day's work, put the book away, and then completely forget it overnight. Because rereading, as we said, is passive, and we want things to be difficult. We want our brain to have to work for that information, because then it strengthens the connections in the brain, as I've said about 1,000,000 times already. So how can rereading actually be effective? Well, I don't really think it can. I mean, I still reread my notes to this day some of the time, but whenever I do, it's because I have a very small amount of energy and because I can't be bothered to do something that's more efficient. It's like, sometimes when I go to the gym, I sometimes go to the gym and just kind of do maybe a couple of pull-ups, and then I'll sit on the sofa on my phone and then just kind of flick through my whatever. But the way I'm building the habit of going to the gym is by considering it a win just by turning up. So in my book, if I've turned up to the gym and done one thing, it doesn't matter how token that thing is. If I'm on my phone listening to an audiobook or listening to a podcast or watching YouTube, that's still a win for me. It still counts as me having gone to the gym. So it's sort of the same with studying. Like, if we're trying to build up the habit of doing consistent study, and let's say it's 11 p.m. and we haven't had a chance to do any studying the whole day and we're really, really tired, but we want to get that rep in, we want to make sure we've done some studying today, then yeah, I, as much as anyone else, fall into that trap of thinking, you know what, I'm just going to read my notes. But I know it doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't actually help me. But at that point, I can't bring myself to muster up the energy to do something more effective that requires more hard work. So in that sense, I think rereading is sort of useful. It's useful to have as the equivalent of going to the gym, doing a single pull-up, and then just going on your phone for the rest of the time. It's that useful, in my opinion, having tried it a lot of the time and realizing that actually active recall is so much better. But it's nice. It's nice to have that option when we have low energy levels. So moral of the story, we probably shouldn't be rereading. But hey, if rereading works for you and you're very happy with your results, then I'm not sure why you're watching this course, because you probably won't learn anything. But if you're doing lots of rereading and you're unhappy with your results, like you would rather get better results in less time, then at that point, you probably want to start using something like active recall and spaced repetition rather than rereading. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.